Get ready for the PATS Nation, the only real deal New England Patriots post-game show. Sponsored by Corso Law Group. Allow us to be your voice. And Special Sauce Podcast. Startup finance and drive yourself to success. And now, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into the PATS Nation. This week 3 of the NFL season sees the Patriots ultimately slap the Las Vegas Raiders around, beating them 36-20. That 7 points came at garbage time. I'm joined as always by Mark Catone and your calls, 855-313-PATS, 855-313-7287. We want to hear from you, Mark. I guess the question that I have, and I think a lot of people out there are going to probably have after seeing this game is, they're a play away from being 3-0. Are they there? Are they that team? Are they that kind of team that can play with 3-0, 2-1, and be there in the end?
I don't know if we know that answer yet, Chris. I think we'll probably have it next week when they play Kansas City. I don't think we have it yet. I think yet last week they faced a team whose secondary got banged up. I think today you faced a team who also was kind of riddled with injuries. I think there's some positive signs, but you'll know next week when we go into Arrowhead, even though there's no fans really, there's a little bit. You'll find out next week.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you're right too, but it has to start tonight. So to break this thing down, and we're going to be with you for the next hour and a half. We want to break down the entire game. A lot of big moments in this game, a lot of little things happen and adjustments when we want to talk, but we also want to talk to you. We want to make sure you let us know what you think. Either, talk to us by the phone, give us a call, 855-313-PATS, or on the comment box, just type us a message and we'll talk to you tonight. Yeah, Mark, it starts with the offense tonight, I think. Last week, we had some issues with the defense, and we also have some issues with the defense tonight too, that we're going to get to. But as far as the offense goes, I was pretty concerned in the first quarter.
Yeah, they didn't look they didn't look good in the first quarter, right? They were struggling to move the ball. Again, receivers can't get separation, Chris. And I think that's going to be something we're going to deal with all season long. It was something we dealt with last year. But after the first quarter, and we'll get to it, McDaniels, I think, made some real good adjustments and used what the Raiders were doing schematically on defense to their advantage on offense, and the Raiders never readjusted. So, in regards to bringing the runners off the edge, running screen passes, but we'll get into that.
No, I agree. I mean, look, he did make some adjustments because the speed of that Raider defense, it seemed like they just were a lot faster than New England coming out of the gate. And those guys getting to the edge, nothing on the edges would work. I think Edelman had an end around or a jet sweep, something like that to the outside. And that they stuffed that immediately, which, by the way, we're going to talk about the wide receivers because they didn't look so good tonight. Edelman looked a little older tonight, I think, after coming off that 170-yard performance the week before. But, they had to make some adjustments because they were. And I thought the Tooney moving over to center, and I really want to know what you think about that too, because I wasn't happy about that move at all. When I heard that in the pregame that they were going to run Tooney there, I thought it was maybe as an emergency situation, something like that, to get him in there if the next guy goes down. But that's where he played tonight. And at first it didn't look good, did it?
No, it didn't. No. And you and I are never in favor of disrupting another position to compensate for a guy that's out. I mean, you have a backup center, I'm assuming. That's
he creates two problems.
Yeah, the center gets old, the center gets hurt. You got a backup that should be in there, but instead you move your old pro guard over to play center. It was a little strange. I was surprised when I saw it. I missed that was going to happen during pregame, and then when I saw it, I'm like, what? But
yeah,
it was I think it struggled in the first quarter, Chris. I think that hurt them a little bit until they figured it out. No.
Yeah, they couldn't move the ball to the edges, and also there was quite a bit of pressure on Cam Newton in the first half of the game, and some of that was coming up the center into his face. So there was some issues there. That middle of the offensive line, I thought. I want to know what you think about that, but I noticed that. But they did settle down. Now I don't know if that was due. Well, is it, Mark? Is it due because they got a lot better in the second quarter on, and then in the second half, they were much better than that. So about, protecting him, moving the ball. What did you, I know what I see with those adjustments. What did you see out there? I mean, why all of a sudden, boom, they started moving the ball?
Well, I think the offensive line played better, right? Obviously. But I do think it was the play calling. I think he stopped trying to throw the ball downfield. Those edges were coming up. Newton was hesitating, throwing the ball out into the flat. He was throwing screen passes. They used that aggressiveness and the speed that the Raiders were using and had against them to our advantage. And the Raiders, surprisingly, Gruden never compensated on defense. They kept running the same edge rushers up and they just never compensated. And we kept running Burkhead and Taylor. And I don't know if Michelle even might have caught one out of the backfield. That's stiff. And we'll get to him. But they didn't adjust Oakland.
You get to Sony Michel. He had 117 yards rushing.
No, 117 yards rushing. What?
Let's get right to it then. You know what?
Please.
We'll go back to the offensive line because I know that you're pissed off about this beyond.
Please.
So, because I was swearing at the screen, screaming at the screen about Sony Michel in the first quarter of this game. But 9 rushes, 117 yards. He averaged 13 yards a carry.
I got an insulin pump and crying out loud in nitroglycerin pills, and I could have ran through those holes. Don't give me Sonny Michel ran through any holes. And then he gets into the open field, and he's in quicksand. He can't run away from anybody. He stinks. Don't give me that garbage.
I was so concerned.
Had 115 yards rushing, please.
I was concerned that a couple of those runs where I was like, they're going to come up behind him and punch that ball right out.
And he almost did punch it out. The linebacker, number 50, almost punched it out on one of those plays.
Hey, listen, I when they drafted Sony Michel, I was jumping up and down with pom-pom saying, this was my guy.
He stinks, Chris. I don't care what anybody says. He had 115 yards. It's phony. It's a garbage. It's phony. That's a phony number. He stinks. He'll always stink. He's dancing around the line of scrimmage. My mother-in-law's got better dance moves than him, and I love my mother-in-law. She's got better dance moves than Sonny Michel, for crying out loud.
He was bad in the first half quarter again. Yeah, I know there has to be some of what McDaniels was doing. I mean, what they were doing, and there's some of the adjustments that they made to get to that. I think the offensive line started to play much better too. So yeah, I mean,
they did.
There were even a couple of those runs that he had that were pretty good runs, but you still kind of looked at it. You still looked at it while he was getting to that second level.
Yeah, but Chris,
when
he
he's running, you're still looking
level,
and saying,
but he can't run away.
He still wants to pop to the side.
He can't run away from anybody. Yeah. You wasted a first-round draft pick. He can't run away from anybody.
I wonder if we're the only two people right now that are looking at 9 rushes for 117 yards at 13 yards a carry average and screaming about this guy saying he's a bum and that he stinks. I wonder if we're the only ones that are out there doing that. I want to know from
the
you
holes
if you guys
he ran
are too.
through. I told you, when an insulin pump and nitroglycerin in my back pocket, I could have ran through those holes.
Yeah, listen, the player of the game to me is Burkhead. I mean, when that guy comes onto the field, every time he touches one, and a lot of people say, well, Burkhead, I mean, it's a good throw-in player. Like, I think sometimes he's looked at that way. Like, he's just kind of a throw-in player. Like, that third back, he's there, gets you some stuff every so often in the game. But man, every single time, it's every single game, he touches the ball, he's moving forward. Everything's going forward with him. There's never any hesitation. He seems to have real good vision out there. And he's fantastic. He was fantastic in the screen game. Yeah, well, but he has been so far. And so
yes, that's the issue with him. If we can keep him healthy, he's huge.
He was fantastic in the screen game too, Mark. And we get to that too. That's another McDaniel plus with Chris, the offense today.
Back in the second quarter, Newton misses him. He can't get the ball over the defensive end. Burkhead might have walked into the end zone. At the very least, he gets you inside the 10-yard line.
He had a linebacker. There was a linebacker that was in the center, kind of coming that direction that he may have had to do something to, but for sure there was nothing after that. And I agree. Burkhead had a great game. I think he would have did 3 touchdowns today. So he's 6. He's 6 for 49 yards, 2 touchdowns. So I thought he had 3. I don't know why I thought he had 3, but he just kind of had that game. And I thought Taylor had a pretty solid game. He had a couple of screw ups there in the third or the fourth quarter. Dropped a pass, a screen pass.
He's a rookie.
But I thought he was effective coming in too.
He was. I thought he was. Listen, next week is the week. My man better be eligible to play next week. I think he's coming off IR. They better activate him and give him the ball. Damian Harris from Alabama, because I've been waiting for him for a year to put that bum, Sonny Michel, on the bench. And next week's the week. I'm hoping he puts him on the bench and we don't see Sonny Michel except for a couple of carries here or there. and that's it after next week.
So Sony Michel does nothing for Mark, he doesn't do anything for me either, okay, even regardless of the 117 yards. What's he do for you? 855-313-PATS, 855-313-7287. So, Mark, we talked a little bit about the offensive line. I thought they were better. They improved. They made adjustments. But I thought McDaniels, I thought he had a fantastic game tonight, and what he did. I mean, their speed was just killing us. They were everywhere in that first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting to the edges. That defense, their defensive backs were making plays, coming up field and things like that. And I really thought that, I really thought that offensive line just played better once McDaniel started going to that screen game. When he just changed that game plan, started running screens. And I'm surprised Gunther and company over there in Vegas didn't make the adjustments for it. But Mark, that screen game was pretty lethal tonight.
And Chris, we
want to get to your phone.
Chris, based on what we saw from the wide receivers, you're going to have that screen game going forward because, they don't have the receivers against quick corners. I mean, Oakland had quick corners. Oakland's got some athletes on the defensive side of the ball. Even though we did put up 36 points, you're going to need that screen game, and you're going to have to do some different things to produce points, I think, this year, because again, the receivers aren't much different than they were last year. I mean, so what Brady dealt with, Newton's going to deal with as well, and I think we saw some of that today. Again.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, I want to go to the Joe, we got somebody on the line right now. I'm told that we have a little Patriots fan on the line right now. This is Olivia. Hi, Olivia. You're in the Pats Nation. Oh, that's it. Go Pats. Go Pats. Thank you for the call, Olivia. So Olivia's calling in saying, go Pat, 3 years old. I got that message from Joe. He said, you have to let the 3-year-old down before she takes her nap. She wants to say, go Pat.
There you go. That's cute. Go
Pats.
I love it.
Olivia.
That's it. We got Pats fans of all ages, Chris.
That's it. They start young. That's what it is, Mark. You got to start young. You have to start at 3 years old,
Yeah. You were smoking cigars at 4 watching the game, for crying out loud.
My son, I asked my son, listen, real quick. I asked my son before the show, I said, hey, you're going to listen, you're going to listen to the show. You're going to watch the show, right? He said, Dad, I've been watching this show since I was born. He said, I've been watching the show since I was born with you and Uncle Mark. But Mark, listen, again, McDaniels adjusts. He did. He adjusted that speed.
Today.
They went to the screen game, and Vegas never really made. I'm going to say Oakland tonight. Is everybody okay with that? Because that's going to happen all night long. I just keep saying Oakland, but they didn't really adjust to it. And I thought Burkhead played well, and the offensive line was there. And there were more yards to be had out there. I really thought with this running game, that screen game. So I thought McDaniels had a friggin' solid game calling plays. There was some times where you question some of the play calling and drive killing type calls, but I thought for the most part he was good. But Mark, what's going to happen with these wide receivers at this point?
Well, Chris, I don't think there's an answer for the wide receivers. I keep praying that Cleveland gets killed every week, so maybe they trade Landry or Beckham, because I think that's your only chance at this point. I mean, listen, Damian Bird's going to give you what he gives you, right? He's going to have some plays here or there where he can get some separation for you, or he could run some reverses, or he could run a little bit in the slot, but he's not a playmaker down the field. He's not, I don't think, big enough and strong enough. N'Keal Harry, do we need to see any more N'Keal Harry tape? I mean, I don't know. I think we've seen what he's going to give you. I mean, even if he develops a little bit more during the course of the season, Chris, I just think what he's giving you is what he's going to give you. And then you have Edelman, and you got what you got. So, I mean, never mind the tight end position. That's an embarrassment what we got at tight end. But
there's a play that went there was a play to the end zone. It was a real nice pass by Newton, and it went right through Izzo's hands. Right through his hands, Mark. I mean, that's a touchdown, and it should be a touchdown, and it needs to be. And they have no presence very, very little presence from that position. And
we drafted 2 tight ends in the 3rd round. They both looked really good today, by the way. Ozzie looked good. And Keene, what a player he is. He hasn't even smelled the grass yet, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I don't know if he's just inactive or if he's really got a foot injury or what.
I don't know. I don't know.
You
You never know with Belichick what it is. It could be a foot injury. It could, you never know what it is with Belichick, whether he's really got a foot injury or if he's just inactive. I don't know. Who knows?
But two third round picks on two tight ends that just aren't contributing at all, haven't seen the field, or if they have, they're invisible out there. So now you're left with Izzo, who again, he'll get you a couple of catches a game. Easy
and you know
catches,
what, Chris? Before the season,
stuff.
But Chris, before the season started,
but he needs to catch that ball in the end zone, Mark.
Yeah, he does. But Chris, before the season started, everybody kept saying how they're going to use the Keene in this offense, and he's going to be line up in all different places. And this, he's been out ever since. He's never played. I don't know.
The way they used to use Hernandez.
Yes,
and
all this other, yes. I don't know.
A slower version of that.
But we haven't seen any of that.
Scrimmage and all that rhetoric. And yeah, listen, and that's another thing we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about coaching too, because all three timeout basically in the third quarter on defense, Mark. What the hell is that? When does that happen? And that's all on the defensive side of the ball, which tells me that he's seeing things out there. There's confusion going on out there. And I don't think it's coming from the secondary. I think it's coming from the front seven.
I think it's coming from the front seven. And you got to realize something. You don't have your quarterback out there to make adjustments. Yeah, McCourty can make adjustments from the back end, but Bentley, is the guy that's going to make the adjustments. It's usually Hightower out there. So you don't got the quarterback there making the adjustments and reading things. So when he reads something, Belichick's calling timeout because he's got nobody there to read it, to pick it up. I mean, McCourty can from the back end, but Bentley's got I'm assuming is calling plays out there, Chris, and because he's got the dot, and I don't think he can at this point.
He's lost out there, and we'll get to more of the defense. But Mark, that's the thing with these drafts. Okay, again, so you get the two tight ends that are invisible, the receivers. Mark, I don't even think they threw the ball to any edge ever downfield. Past 10, 15 yards.
Today they didn't, because Oakland, Chris, had athletic corners who were quick. I'm not saying they're the best corners, but they are athletic, and we just couldn't get by them. What's going to happen when you play Baltimore's defense? Oh, good Lord. Oh.
Yeah, well, you know what? And Raiders helped them out a little bit today. Somebody went out. A couple of guys in their secondary went out. One for sure.
They did.
And, they caught that break last week too. So, but yeah, again, the wide receivers just aren't. They can't get open, Mark. It's just that's it. This is what they are. Harry just can't. He can't get open.
Listen, there were 2 or 3 plays, Chris. You watched him off the line. There's no separation. He can't get. All somebody's going to do is put their hands on him, and he doesn't know how to. He can't get by them. I mean, it's awful. I mean, you wasted a first-round draft pick. You had a historic draft last year for wide receivers, and we ended up with him. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. That was a guy that wasn't nowhere near on my draft board when I looked at the draft last year, and that's who we picked. I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's a matter of Belichick, the GM, player personnel guy, Belichick, the coach. Belichick, the coach, nobody
but
ever
I am
going to
say something,
the
Chris.
GM guy, man. I'll tell you what. There's no receivers on this team, Mark. It's absurd.
Chris, the receivers are going to catch up to you. I mean, you're talking in the opening, are we a team that's a 3-0 team that can compete against the best in the league? I don't think you can with these wide receivers. You're going to have to figure something out. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, they're going to have to make a move somewhere, somehow. Something's going to. That's why I was rooting hard today, man. I was rooting hard today for Washington because I wanted Washington to beat that. I want Cleveland to lose, get dysfunctional, be all kinds of things go wrong over there, and then they'll start letting guys go. Trading and things like that. Because we need. There needs to be some infusion of talent at that position. Something that can threaten or even threaten at all, Chris, to get downfield.
I think they thought when they drafted Harry, because he's a big physical specimen, right? But I think they thought he had some speed because I think he just played against guys that were just physically so bad in that Pac-10. I think he played against, he looked a lot better on film than he actually is. You take these guys from the SEC and the ACC, Chris, they're playing against NFL cornerbacks every Saturday. In the Pac-10, that ain't happening.
Yeah, Mark, and we got to get to
Pac-12. I'm sorry, they call it the Pac-12 now. Pac-10.
Yeah, that's your favorite. That's your favorite conference. And we're going to talk more about that conference too, coming on the other side when we do talk about the draft. But yeah, if they don't get better, they're going to go walking into Kansas City next week. They're going to have a world of hurt. But Want to get to that, and we want to talk about Cam Newton. Got to get to Cam Newton on the other side of this break. More Pats Nation after this.
It's the Special Sauce Podcast.
You like the sauce? The sauce is good, huh?
This is start out as finance.
With your host.
Hey everybody, it's Marcus Aurelius here with Special Sauce Podcast. I'm pleased to announce our next upcoming show. We have an excellent guest, Nick Pacheco with Independent Benefit Solutions. What's going to be on the show? Why tune in?
We're going to talk about how a licensed insurance agent could build their own career working from home using the Amazon of insurance with a number of products and services, all with no effort.
So tune in at our website, specialsaucepodcast.com. Go slow, take chances, be prosperous.
Back in with more Pats Nation with Corso and Catone. And Mark, Cam Newton today, listen, 17 to 28 for 162 yards, 1 touchdown, the bad pick that he had, and it was a bad pick. It was a bad, very bad throw. And it's kind of how the offense was in that quarter or so, where they just couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. They eventually got going, but it's not a bad percentage, Mark. It's not a bad percentage. It's still, it's an even day. I thought he commanded the offense really well today. I did. Same as I thought last week. There were times when they were getting, this was the first time I think this season we've seen this much pressure on this guy moving around back there. Stuff he couldn't get, a couple of times he couldn't get away from it either. I wonder if Cam 3 or 4 years ago would have gotten away.
Yeah, he couldn't get loose and free. You're right. 3 or 4 years ago, he probably would have ran out of there and gotten free, but he couldn't. But I will say this, Chris, he made adjustments.
Wait, Mark,
himself.
wait a minute. For those of you at the beginning, in the pregame, there was a lot of talk about re-upping, and I know you want to get to that too after you make your point, but they wanted to talk about re-upping him now, or extending him and giving him a bunch of money now. Does this make you pump the brakes a little bit that he couldn't get out of a couple of those things that he normally would have?
No, Chris, I don't think so, because I think he was smart enough. He had the one bad throw, right? But for the most part, he didn't try to force anything, Chris. He took with what was given to him. A couple of times he went down. But I think he took what was in front of him, except for that one real bad pass. He checked down a bunch of times. I think he played within the scheme of the offense. I think he adjusted after the first quarter as well, his mindset to, okay, listen, this isn't going to be there today, so we're going to have to do some different things. I thought after that first quarter and that bad pick, I thought he settled in and became like a game manager today, different than what he was last week, right? He made more plays last week. So no, I think after that first quarter, it was a solid game by Newton as well.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, he's exactly what you said. And again, we want to hear from you, 855-313-PATS.
Because earlier in his career, Newton would not have done that today. I think Newton would have forced some balls downfield and had some picks,
Which is why when that first pick happened, the first thing I said on the phone, I said to you, I said, uh-oh, this is what he does sometimes,
Yeah. But he settled in. He didn't do it. He settled in.
He settled in, and he did. He took what they gave him. On many, that's one of the notes that I had. One of the things that I noticed that he did a lot of that today. That his eyes were downfield. He wasn't looking to just bail, and get out there. His eyes were downfield, and then he checked down. He came to his check down, which shows you, how well the offensive line has been playing and continues to play, because he had some time to do that. But he bought a lot of that today on his own. I thought
he did. He did.
He had a couple of times where I thought he could have taken off and had an open lane, probably for a touchdown on when they were in the red zone once. But he chose today to stick and play within the scheme and the structure of what McDaniels and them wanted to do, or at least adjusted to doing once they saw the kind of speed, the Raiders had coming out of that.
Yeah. Now, Chris, I think next week, you may have to try to run out of there a little bit more to make some plays, because I think you're going to have to score a whole heck of a lot of points next week. I know I'm jumping the gun, but against Kansas City.
I also don't think Kansas City is as fast of a defense.
No, they're
as
not.
what they would think. Well, Mark, again, everything about Newton is what we're talking about. What you're saying. The pass, the interception. Yeah, that was real ugly. But once he got his head screwed on right, I thought he was good. I mean, again, his percentage was good. He didn't run around all that much. He rushed for 20, but still rushed for 27 yards. I mean, that's not too bad. But a lot of that was just kind of freeing up some time. But again, we keep coming back to it over and over again. And I like the receiving core. You can't tell me there's not a back shoulder throw in them at all, because I don't even think there was an attempt for something like that today. You can't tell me that N'Keal Harry can't get himself into a position with his size to get up in those red zone situations and get a goddamn touchdown. I don't understand that. Is he really that inept out there?
You really, you're asking me? What do you think I'm going to say to you? He's inept. Listen, Harry, he's a big guy. What is he, 6'4", 6'3", 225, 230? But that's all he is. He's a specimen, but he has no extra gear. He has no speed. I mean, I just think the Raiders were an athletic team, Chris, with athletic corners, and I don't think he could even get to the corner to do a back shoulder throw against those guys, because they cut off the route. They were quick enough. They were a couple of plays, you could see it. They were physically touching him, grabbing him, and he just, that's similar to what Brady said about him last year. And I hate to bring up Brady, but he couldn't get any separation. You put your hands on him, he can't get free. If you can't learn to do that, or you can't do it, then that's going to be a problem in this league, because corners are going to do that to you every single weekend. What are you supposed to do if you can't?
And want to go to the phones right now and go back to talking about Sony Michel just for a bit. We got Marcus in Attleboro. Go ahead, Marcus. Welcome to Pats Nation. You're on.
Hi. I think I'm going to have to disagree with Mark here. I think the passing game would be better with Sony Michel more involved in the screen game. I think he's very elusive when he catches the ball, and I think he could maybe lead to more explosive plays instead of Rex Burkhead.
Marcus, let me ask you, though. Last week, they looked like they were trying to get the ball to him a little bit more last week, and he had I think he had 2 drops, was it, last week? I mean, could it be,
It was 1 or 2 drops, but I think that's more on Newton as it is on him. Newton not maybe getting the ball to him when he needs it.
All right, Marcus. Well, listen, we appreciate the call. Thanks for calling in.
Marcus, thanks for the call. I can't disagree with him more, but I thank him for the call. I think, hey, everyone's allowed their opinion. I don't necessarily know what he's been watching. But
the problem, you know what, though, to what Marcus is saying, though, if you remember when they drafted him, one of the reasons why they didn't want to go with Chubb or somebody else like that is because they wanted that next guy that could catch the ball out of the backfield. And Michel did that a little bit down there in Georgia, and he was pretty good at it when he hit the edges. He seemed a lot more elusive there than he is here. So you were just, that was what he was intended to do, and he has done very, very, very little of that. So no, they're not. Marcus is right. They're not attempting it to him, but there's got to be a reason for that. Look, the problem with this guy is he just goes sideways.
Chris, I think they're not attempting it is because whenever I think, number one, you already go sideways, and Marcus is right. They did try to do that earlier in his career. And then I just think that when he gets into the open field, Chris, even when he's got a lane and this wide open field, he's looking. You saw him today. He's looking at the screen up in the stadium to see who's coming to tackle him because he has no breakaway speed. I mean, come on. That's not normal for a first-round draft pick.
There's no burst, and there's no
burst.
He seems to be a guy that likes to have a lead in front of him. Okay.
Listen, if JJ Taylor caught that one pass, that one hold that he went through, when he's looking up at the screen to see somebody grab him from behind because he knows somebody's coming, because he knows he doesn't have the breakaway speed to score a touchdown, Taylor would have scored. Yeah. I'm telling you, Taylor would have scored.
He just has more of a burst. I mean, Michel just had a burst. It takes him too long to figure out where.
And the reason I like Burkhead
to the side, his habit is to just kind of shuffle, pop to the side a little bit, and then all of a sudden, the defense is just too fast.
Chris, I like Burkhead in the passing game more than Michel, and I think everyone's entitled to their, what they see. But I think the reason
Burkhead was great today.
The reason I personally like Burkhead more than Michelle in the passing game and even in the running game is he's constantly going forward. There's none of that sidestepping. Very rarely do you see him run up the back of a line, one of his offensive linemen. He's always making positive yards. So I don't, But
well, you know what? Listen, though, to Marcus's point, how about it fail first? Really fail first. I mean, they haven't really, they haven't thrown much out of the backfield yet. But again, you've always had James White too. I mean, I certainly don't think Marcus is suggesting that when White comes back, Michelle sees those balls out of the backfield.
I think and that's a valid point, Chris. I think when White comes back,
he must mean now and today.
With
I
this
think you're right,
situation
that we have.
When White comes back, he takes the majority of those third down plays, so that'll be irrelevant. I don't think you're going to see Burkhead out there either. I think it's White takes those plays.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mark, okay, the coaching I thought was good on the offense. Once again, we're in week 3. Yeah. I still give all the props to the offense right now. I think they're progressing. I think, everybody's a little too giddy about a loss last week, but I think they're making strides, progression. They scored a lot of points today. They also have a lot of good coaching points. They left a lot of points out there too today.
Let me ask you a question though. Based on what we saw last week and based on this week, this week you faced a team, Chris, who their best receiver was out, Ruggs. Then, Edwards, who was the only other receiver they had out there besides Aguilar, goes out. So you got Aguilar out there. You're playing against receivers that are probably 5th and 6th level receivers. Your buddy Gilmore got beat bad again today, and he and creates a penalty. Next week they're gonna have to step up next week, Chris.
Mark, I've said it. I'm not gonna go back on it, and I still feel it after watching this game too. I understand what the numbers say, okay? And you guys are going to call and let me know, hey, what the hell do you know? What do you know what you're talking about right now? But I still say that there's parts of that secondary that are soft at times. The coverage, there's not tight coverage, okay? And when there is tight coverage, they're very poor at playing the ball at the point of the catch. They're not good at it this year. Last year, they knocked a lot of balls out. They got there on time. Okay, and they made good plays on the ball. Gilmore right now is not doing that well at all. Even when he does have coverage, his ball skills of how he's playing the ball are just not good.
Chris,
right now. If anybody thinks I'm wrong, go ahead and call and let me know.
I'm going to tell you who I think is really struggling this year, Chris. He's been beat a lot the first 3 weeks of the season is Jonathan Jones. I think he's struggled. I think Jones had a good year last year, but even last year, I think at times towards the end of the season, he was exposed, but I think he just takes some bad angles. I mean, Jones is really struggling. He got beat again today by, like I said, you're not talking about top-notch receivers today. He got beat. And the other guy that really, Chris, I don't think he's been used as much, but he's been. I don't even know why you're putting him on the field unless it's out of desperation. Is Brooks, the safety, doesn't belong on the field? That's that's your buddy Brooks.
I don't like. I don't think. Every time I see Brooks, he's chasing somebody.
Yes, he is.
Every single time I see Brooks, he's just chasing somebody.
Usually it's a tight end in the end zone.
Yeah, I never see him challenging anybody. I just see him chasing people. And Jones, I thought Jones had another uneven week. He had a couple of plays today, but he had a couple of penalties again. Okay. And, you just can't have that in key moments. You can't have that. And it's always on, it's always on third down. It's always when you're getting off the field. Here comes the holding call. And it was a the PI they called. I think he had a holding and a PI today. Okay. I think. And the PI, it was. You can't afford to do that. You have to be in a better alignment, better position. When they roll that back to the beginning of that play, and I love to see where he was lined up. A little technical, and not to be, a football nerd, but you know what? I'd like to see where he aligned because that will tell me why he got beat so badly on that, and why he had to commit the foul on that play. And so, and Gilmore's the same thing, Mark. I mean, what do you think of Gilmore right now? Because I'm just not seeing it. I don't see the defensive player of the year right now. I just don't. I mean, he's getting beat by guys he should never get beat, ever, if you want to be an elite corner in this league.
I'm wondering getting back to what you had just said, not to get technical, but I'm wondering what he's there's got to be something going on with him in regards to the spin of the hips and where, the angles he's taking on these guys. They're running right by him. It's almost like he's getting turned around, and then he's trying to make up for it, and he's chasing. And today he grabs. Last week against Metcalf, he was clearly beat. He made up ground at the end, so it made it look like he had tight coverage, but he really didn't have tight coverage. He was beat. And this week he did the same thing with Aguilar. He went right by him, and Aguilar is not a speed burner, and he grabs at him.
Yeah, it's sloppy. It's just sloppy to me.
It's sloppy play, and I don't know what type of angles he's taking, Chris.
Yeah, I don't know. And like I said, Gilmore too. Gilmore
had to keep Gilmore. Yeah.
Gilmore had to kill. Jones and Gilmore, but Jones had the PI, but Gilmore had the PI too. Yeah.
Gilmore had the PI.
Mean, that end of that second quarter. Oh, you know what, Mark?
Chris, how about the end of the second quarter with the 34 seconds? You let him go down the field.
Listen to me. I can't.
Seconds. Let's talk about that.
This is why I hate this game sometimes. Okay, this is the reason why, because they scored the touchdown with 34 seconds left. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, well, because I'm such a negative human being, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, there's too much time on this clock. They left too much. Oakland, they're gonna bring this ball down the field right now. They're gonna be soft, and they're gonna let things, or they're gonna create penalties. Something's
and that
gonna happen.
Wasn't that the series, Chris? That Gilmore.
That's the series. He had his PI.
Yeah, his PI.
It's just bad. It's bad coverage. You're getting beat. You're beat. And therefore, you have to grab. I think you grabbed his arm.
Chris, how about down at the goal line with 9 seconds left? 9 seconds left. Once they get down there, and you said, here we go, play action to the tight end. Play action to the tight end. What do they call? Play action to the tight end. Not even covered.
You knew he was sneaking out of there. That he was just going to sneak out to the back of the end zone. I mean, if it was, I don't know. They clearly thought they were going to make one running attempt because they gave him the timeout back. They had the timeout back on the clock again. So obviously they were selling out to defend the run there, which they hadn't been able to do all day really. And we'll talk about that also. But yeah, I mean, he snuck right out. And I just feel like the secondary is while they are getting some turnovers now, and there are times that they are aggressive. I don't think there's enough of it yet to call them an elite secondary. I just don't. I think that they're just loose. The coverage is loose. They're getting there just a little late. It's always in front of them. It's never, they don't challenge, they don't friggin' challenge the pass and play.
No, they don't. And what about the run game? They can't stop anybody in the run game.
No. And by the way, getting back to the pass real quick, and Belichick last week, he was pretty quick to give that secondary a pass last week. He was very quick to do it. He thought he gave it all to Russell Wilson. And so fine. Okay. Say, okay, fine. 1 week, Russell Wilson had the game of his life, let's say, or he's an MVP, and he is, and we already talked about that. Okay, now what about this week? Because Ruggs was out, Edwards went out in the game.
Chris had almost 120 passer rating.
Yeah, it was still soft coverage. Still, nothing was being challenged. I mean, you would think that going against these kind of guys, Renfro, Edwards went out. Edwards had two receptions for 48 yards. Aguilar had 2. But I'm talking about like Jones and Moreau and
Chris, the guy that you thought was gonna beat you, they shut down the tight end. I give him credit for that. As Belichick always does, he takes away your bread and butter. And the bread and butter of that offense last Monday night was the tight end, and Belichick took him right out of the game. So I have to give him credit for that, Chris. They took the tight end right out of the game.
They threw at him 4 times.
Right out of the game, they took him.
They threw him 4 times. He caught 2 of them.
Which is what Belichick does, right?
Pretty irrelevant. Yeah, no, listen, they played him well, and they played him differently at different times during the game too. It wasn't just one guy, one safety, Duggar or Phillips or somebody like Gilmore. It was Gilmore at times. It was times that they bracketed him. They banged them on the line a lot with their either defensive end or their outside linebackers, or somebody out there would bang them off the line too. So they did he got a lot of different looks from the defense today.
Yeah.
Tight end. So no, they did a real good job. As I said, they won this game 36-20. So obviously they did some things well, and they got turnovers, and they got forced turnovers, Mark. They weren't, just handaways, where they just completely screwed. These were forced turnovers. I mean, Winovich getting in and creating that turnover with Carr with the empty hand. That's a hustle play. That's a football play, and some of the punching out for Jacobs there, that fumble in the first quarter of the game or so. Again, so they did force turnovers. But again, do you feel it, Mark, with the secondary? What I'm saying, what I feel, like it just doesn't.
Well, Chris,
we're not ready for Kansas City right now.
No, you're not ready for Kansas City, but I'm going to tell you something, Chris. I think that the front seven is more of a problem than the defensive backfield, because other than, they got a little bit of pressure today. Winovich got in a little bit, and Wise, had some plays, but for the most part, Chris, first of all, they can't stand anybody up the defensive line and shed a tackle and make a play on a running back. So everybody who runs the ball is going 4-5 yards downfield, and then you're making a play while the guy's on top of you. Okay, now you're grabbing him, but the push. There's no standing anybody up. There's nothing. It's for the most part, right? I wonder what the rate is, Chris, rushing yard. What their percentage was today. Was it 5-6 yards a carry? Had to be close. I bet.
I'll look, but
had to be close.
But when you talk about we talked about the secondary. Mark from Rhode Island sends a comment in talking about the corners. Wants to know what we think about J.C. Jackson. What did you think about him today?
Jackson, Chris, I think had another solid game. There was one play I think I saw where he got beat, but for the most part, you don't even hear Jackson's name, Chris, because I don't even think they're throwing at him because of the coverage he's putting on whoever he's on. He's turning into that type of a corner. They're going at Gilmore. They're not even going at Jackson, Chris.
No, I know. There were some plays that I thought that he made that he did well today. And there was a couple of times he was out of position just here and there. But I think you're right. I think they're asking him to do some different things. And he's moving around the field and sometimes he's on their ace, sometimes he's on their two, or maybe, even the tight end at times and things like that, or taking part in bracket coverage and things like that. But I think J.C. Jackson's had a good year. I do so far. Him, again, the whole secondary I think can play better. But if you're asking me who I think the better corners are right now on this team, I think he's out. Would you say he's out playing Gilmore right now?
Yes, I absolutely would. I would say he's out playing Gilmore. I absolutely would say he's out playing Gilmore. Yep.
Yeah,
I would.
And so there it is. And so, and now, and we have to get the break. And on the other side, on the other side, we're going to get to Brady versus Belichick. We have to talk about that because they're playing right now and they're up big right now over Denver, who's a mess anyway, 17-3.
Denver don't have it. Denver's got to have to line up out crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean they're in as bad a shape as San Francisco's in, and who we'll talk about.
How bad? San Francisco? How bad are the Giants? Oh my God!
Not good. That's not a good football team to get slaughtered the way they did today. Speaking of which, we're going to go to updates. More Pats Nation after these updates. Back in with more Pats Nation, going around the league today to see some results that took place in the NFL today. Tennessee Titans outlasted the Minnesota Vikings in what was a close game again. Game winner by Gostkowski at the end, 31-30. Our game saw the New England Patriots top the Las Vegas Raiders 36-20. The Philadelphia and Cincinnati game ended. It looked like it was ending in a tie. I didn't see what happened in overtime, but I believe that game was ending in a tie. The Pittsburgh Steelers down the Houston Texans today, 28-21, while the Bears downed Atlanta 30-26. Buffalo survived with a questionable pass interference call to defeat the Los Angeles Rams 35-32. Cleveland Browns beat the Washington football team 34-20. And despite ridiculous amounts of injuries, the San Francisco 49ers destroyed the New York Giants 36-9. There are games currently in progress. Outsees Tampa Bay defeating so far 17-3 right now in other leagues. And tonight's game is a good one. Dallas is going to be playing Seattle. They go on the road. More Pats Nation, more post game after this. Back in with more Pats Nation. Corso and Catone. Mark, coming out of the break, we were talking about, we talked about the defense. We kind of covered some of this game. And I don't want to scare us too much. I want to talk about the game, but every week, Mark, we have to do this, okay? Because it's a battle. Brady left this team, okay? He took off, he left, he's in Tampa Bay. Everybody wants to know who's winning this battle. Is it Belichick? Is it Brady? Which is getting the better of these two? How's it going to end up? How's the season going to end up like that? So, Mark, every week I want to play this game. Brady versus Belichick, Tommy Boy versus Billy Boy, okay? How did they do? How are we doing this week? And who's got the edge so far in the season? So, this week, they're still playing right now, but they're up big over Denver, 17-3. So far, what do you say, Mark? Who's got the season lead right now?
Well, I'm going to say I think it's Brady. And I'm sorry, Belichick at this point. I don't think it's Brady. I think Brady's he's been subpar up until today. I mean, today he's got, 2 touchdowns. He's playing well. I mean, he's playing against a high school football team today, so I'm not too impressed. They had a high school team. They got nobody out there. They got Alabama would score 40 points on Denver today, so I'm not too impressed. But, I think Belichick's got the advantage, Chris. I'm going to tell you why. Brady last week squeaks out a win against Carolina. I think Belichick has taken a team that everybody expected we were going to have a poor season. We're one play away from being 3-0 going into Arrowhead Stadium. My personal opinion is Belichick has the advantage. I think Brady we'll see what he does going forward. But up until now, Brady has looked like the quarterback we saw last year with New England with much better weapons. I mean, he hasn't had a passer rating over 85, I don't think, or 90, 85 the whole season. Tonight he looks good against, like I said, a high school team. He ain't playing against anybody. So I want to see him play against somebody again and see what he does with stats and how he looks and the reads he makes. I'm not impressed with what he's doing today. Denver stinks.
No, he came into this game, I think, what do you have, a 79 passer rating?
Something like that. Denver, Chris.
Listen, it
stinks.
It's Belichick. To me, it's Belichick so far. Like I said, you know why, too? One of the kind of the intangibles, one of the things you don't look at too much is the atmosphere in the team. They have so much camaraderie right now. They're all sticking up for each other. Cam's taking up for the stiff over there that he calls Doughboy on the edge. And, they're getting along great. Everybody's happy to be alive in New England right now. Okay. So that right there too tips in the scale of Belichick, because let's face it, Brady and Gronk were not pleased with how things were done here. They didn't like getting called out meetings. They didn't like being held accountable as football players.
Brady got called out publicly by the cartoon character. That coach, listen, I'm going to tell you something. That coach is nothing but a cartoon character, Bruce Arians. People around the league say, oh, he's a good coach. They respect him. I guess he knows X's and O's, Chris, obviously, right? But he's nothing but a cartoon character. He's a cartoon character, that coach. You're not going to tell me Brady doesn't look at him some days and says to himself, what the hell did I do coming to this place with this guy? This guy's a cartoon character of a coach. Nobody else wanted him. He had no choice. You think he chose to go to Tampa Bay and play for Bruce Arians? Nobody else wanted him for the price he wanted.
Mark, I listened to Burt Breer, the MMQB. I heard him this morning talking about he spent some time down in Tampa. Okay. A few weeks ago before the season started or whatever. And he said, listen, that's very much Brady's operation. That's his operation. Yeah. That's what he's running. It's going how he's, how he wants it to go, or they're putting it in his hands to do it. So listen, we talked about this in the offseason and we talked about it coming in, that if it is Brady's, to fail or succeed with, and it's all in his lap, and Leftwich is just a puppet, and Bruce Arians is just kind of sitting back. I mean, I guess bringing Gronk in and paying him $9 million plus a possibility of 10, okay, to do what he's doing down there, that was to appease Brady. So I guess it is his program down there. Well, so far, what we talked about is happening, where the guys are all looking at him now, and he can't sit on the bench next to McDaniels anymore, and he can't go to Bill and have Bill say, I'll take the heat right now, just in his aura. I'll take the heat, put the cameras on me. There's nobody else to put the cameras on. So when things go in the tank over there, they're all going to be looking to Brady, and who's he looking to? Can he handle it? It didn't look good for the first couple of weeks. I don't know what his numbers are right now, but I mean, he's obviously beating up on this team pretty good. But still, I think that it's Belichick all day. The way
I think he just threw his third touchdown pass of the day to Evans. I'm looking at the screen behind you, but again, they're playing against a high school team today with all the injuries they got. So I'm not impressed. They'll all be kissing and hugging at the end of the game. It'll be a love fest until Tampa Bay plays a team, Chris, that's a playoff team, and Tampa Bay is going to get smacked again by another playoff team because defensively they're not that good. And offensively, I think their offensive line is very, very suspect. And I think when you play a team that's got a defense, you're going to see them struggle again, just like they did against New Orleans. They struggled, but
yeah.
Getting back to the Patriots.
Wait, he's 15 of 24 for 166 yards so far and 3 touchdowns. So not a ton of yards, but he's throwing touchdowns.
He's throwing touchdowns against a high school. Let's listen. A high school team, a high school defense. Can I have to say it again?
Denver's not a very good football team.
Denver stinks. Come on, please.
But Mark, so yeah, I give it to Brady. I give it to Belichick all day long. And I think now moving forward, okay, so give this game to Tampa. They're going to beat up on Denver. So they're going to be 2-1. New England's 2-1. What do you see now moving forward with these two? How do you think it's going to go?
I think, like I just said to you, Chris, I think Tampa Bay is going to struggle whenever they face playoff teams because I just don't think Tampa Bay has their offensive line, Chris, I think is suspect. And I think their defense is overrated. I don't think their defense is – they put up some numbers last year. They did. But I think their defense is overrated. I think their secondary can be thrown on. Listen, New Orleans lit them up in that first game, and I think Drew Brees is on the downside as well of his career. I don't think Drew Brees is at his peak performance, and Drew Brees, looked pretty good against them.
Wait a minute. How the hell did that team lose to this Raiders team?
Well, because you didn't have Thomas, the number one receiver last week, right? And Brees looked a little old last week, Chris. Listen, you're going to get games where Brady and Brees, these guys are going to eventually show their age. And I think last week was one of those games. He didn't have Thomas, who's like his binky, his security blanket. He didn't have him out there last week, and it showed. He struggled a bit. That's going to happen, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And they're not going to win that division. 855-313.
I don't think Tampa's winning that division.
No, 855-313 Pats. A couple of scores you didn't get in the update. My screen was frozen. The Colts are beating the Jets right now, Mark, 17-7. That's early in the third quarter. And then the Panthers are beating the Chargers right now at the half, 18-7. And then the Lions are over the Cardinals right now. That's a little surprising to me going into the half. 17-13. So
how about your buddy at the day with that dumpster fire of the New York Jets? When does he get fired? Gaze. What are they waiting for? Just pull the trigger. There's the players don't respect him. They're bashing him. Even publicly, they're bashing him, and he hasn't been fired yet.
Yeah, that's a mess. Oh, and Seattle, by the way, Seattle's up 16-9 with 6 minutes or so left in the second quarter over the Cowboys. So,
can I ask you a question? Does Woody Johnson still own the Jets?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I tell you what, that is such a disgrace of an organization. I mean, look, I'm happy. I'm thrilled to death when the Jets stink and when they're dysfunctional. I mean, there's nothing better than that. There just isn't. But God, man, I mean, that's just smells so bad over there. You're a professional sporting outfit. I mean, that's just a disgrace. I mean, it's an absolute disgrace. I'll tell you this, any chance that kid Donald had of being anything is just completely destroyed.
If he's got a half a brain, he'll be running out of there like a track and field team when he gets himself the free agency. Get the heck out of there. That's a disgrace of an organization, is right.
What does he have? 3 years left on that contract?
I don't know. Was it 3, 2, 3?
Something like that.
That's always somebody, Chris. I told you. I mean, now we got Newton, but I would love to have pried him out of there because I think the kid's got ability and I think the kid's got potential, but he's never gonna reach it over there. They stink.
No, and yeah, you're right. And he may have all that ability and potential, but he's a guy that may be sitting there in a couple of years. If you wanted to say, for those of you out there, and let us know, 855-313 PATS. Do you want to extend Cam Newton? Mark. And that's some of the things that people are talking about right now.
And the
Watching how
Patriots have
he's
never
playing.
the Patriots never extend anybody during the season, Chris.
They don't do it.
So
They don't do-
that's going to be a
doing-
conversation probably for the end of the season.
But they don't do, Mark, the thing is they don't do some of the stuff they've been doing also.
No, maybe they extend him. Newton said this week, Chris, that he doesn't want to talk about contracts. He wants to focus on the season, and that's something he'll deal with at the end of the year. So he even said it himself. I mean, unless you give him a wheelbarrow full of money, I mean, then obviously he'll talk about it now if you want to do that for him. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, like I said, if you're Cam Newton though, right? Well, so if you're Newton, okay, and this is I was thinking about this last night too. So, what is he? 31, Mark?
Yeah.
How old he is? Okay. So if you're sitting there saying, all right, this is how the league protects their quarterbacks today. Clearly I'm sitting in a system right now where they're asking me to use my brain and I don't need to run around and just take shots. And I mean, he used to get his ass kicked down there in Carolina, a lot of headshots, but that doesn't really go on with this kind of a system over here. So if you're Newton, do you go to your agent and say, listen, just get something done? Okay, this is where am I going? Where else am I going to go? Who else do I want to play? I probably got 4.
Well,
maybe I could.
I would
3 to 5 years.
I would hope that that's how that plays out, Chris. Especially if they have success and they make it to the playoffs and can make some kind of a run in the playoffs. I would think at this stage of his career, if we can give him something that's really comparable money wise. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to give him what he could maybe get on the open market, but if it's comparable and you want to try to win a Super Bowl and do something for your legacy. Yeah, why not get something done? But Chris, I think we need to get back. There's a couple of points I think I'd like to continue to make on the defensive side of the ball. I think the defensive line is.
Yeah, well, you were pissed off about that, and yeah, we wanted to get to the defensive front because the front seven's not good. But go ahead, Mom.
The front seven's terrible, right? It's terrible. Right. Where's the other kid? Where's the kid Uche, Chris? Where's he? He's out too. Another guy. You're talking about our rookies never see the field. This is every year. Another guy, he's on IR. He's had another lost season.
Yeah, Mark,
what's he gonna do?
With these. I don't understand what happens to these rookies. Jennings, same thing. I didn't see he didn't
He
play
was
today.
just an inactive. I don't think he's injured. I think he's just inactive. And he looked pretty good opening week.
I don't know.
You mean Jennings can't give you more than what those linebackers are showing us, Chris?
That was a bad display today. Bentley played. I don't like the way Bentley plays. I don't think he's ready for it. He's late. He chooses gaps. He chooses gaps instead of, and then maybe some of this is scheme and what they're doing, but he seems to choose wrong all the time. And he misses a lot of tackles. You gave him credit on one. I know it was a sack. And it was Butler, I think, or it was
Butler. No, it was Butler. I was wrong in giving him credit for that. It wasn't him.
And he just laid right around that tackle too. And, that's how he's been playing all season long. And you're not going to win with that. And I see him out in coverage and he looks like he just shouldn't be anywhere near the sideline in any kind of coverage. And you don't want your middle linebacker out there. I get it, but that's a liability right now at that position. Yeah, and the rest of the front center too, the rest of the front seven too, Mark, they got good pressure today. So, and that's the other thing with the secondary that we talked about. Last week, the secondary got a pass, the defensive backs, because I'm pissed off about it. I'm so pissed off about the damn secondary. I always want them to play the best out of everyone. Okay. And last week they got a pass because the front seven wasn't getting there. They weren't getting any pressure. Well, today they got pressure today. I mean, they got some pressure today, especially in the second half of that game. They were around Carr a lot today, Mark. And Winovich, I thought, had his best game.
Winovich did have his best game, and Winovich, Chris, is going to have to keep coming. Every week he's going to come. Winovich is going to have to be one of those guys that you're going to have to scheme for, and you're going to have to coach and come up with a game plan to stop. Hopefully, if he becomes that type of a player, Chris, then maybe you got a shot. And we've talked about this, Chris, during the last couple of weeks. Is what we're seeing out of that front seven, and specifically the linebackers, is it the fact that they're just so inexperienced that they haven't learned our system yet? Or is it a skill deficit that they just don't have the skill? What do you, I mean, I put that out to you.
I don't know. They don't have the skill. They're not good enough players.
And that's something I'd like our callers to respond to. Do they think it's the skill level of those players? Or do they think it's just they haven't learned that system yet because the system's so complex? I'd like to know what the callers think about that.
855-313-PATS, 855-313-7287. Yeah, Mark, they're not standing guys up, so they seem to be built for the type of defense that come through gaps to get pressure that way and things like that. But they don't stand people up in the running game. So their front seven, those two Butler, those guys down, are not getting guys stood up and allowing the guys behind them to come and play, and make these plays and make these tackles. And it's not happening. And it's a huge, huge problem, Mark. It's a huge problem, because if they don't solve this, teams that throw the ball are going to also have success running the ball, and it's going to set up play action. It's going to set up real problems for that secondary if they don't fix this front seven
Chris,
problem.
next week you're going to face not only you're facing Mahomes, obviously, right? And you're facing, they got the offense and the wide receivers and the whole, the tight end, but they got the rookie running back out of LSU. I'm interested to see what he does next week against us. He may be the person that beats us more than anybody, because I don't know if we're going to be able to stop that kid.
Yeah, he scats around there, doesn't he? He gets
does.
around, and he's pretty quick.
That could be a big problem next week, Chris, for us.
What was the kid from Philadelphia, that running back that could just move around, scatter around? Sproles, guy like
Sproles,
that. That can just get around, get speed. And
JJ Taylor reminds me a little bit of Sproles, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Poor man's version, probably.
Poor man's version, yeah, he is.
But yeah, I mean, you know what? But the bottom line is,
but next week,
for that
Chris,
front seven,
that running back that we could have a big problem next week with our front seven. We'll see.
As much as you like Andy Reid, and we're going to talk about the other game coming up.
Listen, I can't tell you about what I think about Andy Reid on the show.
As much as you like Andy Reid, he will see that. I mean, he's going to see what this front seven is right now.
Andy Reid's listen. As much as I don't like Andy Reid, I think but I think he's a good coach, and he's going to come up with it. He's going to watch the tape, and I got to think he's going to be licking the walrus chops there. It looks,
Again, going back to the draft, we just keep doing that, and you could do it on both sides of the ball because there's so many talented players. Mark and I are never going to let this go. Do you understand? Those of you listening, we're never going to allow the draft. These last 3 to 4 drafts that have passed were so atrocious, so many misses of guys that to me seemed so damn obvious, and now we're feeling it. The linebacking cores, it's just non-existent, and the guys that you did draft, you can't get on the field. You just can't get these guys on the field. Well, Uche's got all this athleticism. Where is he? He's hurt. Look how hurt is this guy?
What has he got? An ankle injury? Is that what they keep saying it is? It's an ankle?
Foot, ankle. We can look at that. We can look that up. Joe can look that up. But
I mean, he's out for 3 weeks.
It's a leg issue.
Now, he's on IR, so now he's out a minimum of another 3 weeks before he's eligible for nothing. So you're talking.
Yeah, but I don't know if that means, because didn't they put him on there 2 weeks ago?
I don't know. I know they said Uche and Andrews this week are on IR. I didn't know if it was the first week that Uche was on IR.
I'm not sure about that,
Chris. I'm not sure.
I don't know if those 2 games count.
Luckily, with the new rules, he can come off IR. But if this is his first week on IR, Chris, now you're talking week 9?
Yeah.
10? I mean, when does he come off? 8, 9, week 8, week 9? I mean, you got to count the bye week. I mean,
this isn't anything new. This isn't anything new. I mean, this is the New England Patriots.
And all I heard in the draft was what an athlete this kid is. He's the steal of the draft. He's never stepped foot on the field.
This is always in New England. A guy gets an injury, you don't know the degree of it. You have no clue what it is, what it's about, how long it's going to be. And they seem to just be out for extended periods of time, Mark.
It's disgusting.
And you just don't know anything. So now, he's not on the field. Jennings isn't on the field. Asiasi's not on the field, right? Keene's not on the field. That's 4 so far. That's your
whole draft.
That's the draft.
Then you took the field goal kicker. What's he? He's on the practice squad.
He's on the practice squad. We got guys missing extra points.
You wasted a draft pick on him.
Well, we know. Listen, in the special teams, Mark, we talk about that a little bit today. We have a kicker right now that we know full well can't kick from 40 out.
So what are you doing with him? What are you doing with him? How bad is that? So if you need a 48-yard field goal in Arrowhead to win that game,
what are you going to do
next week? What are you going to do? Who are you going to bring out there?
He ain't going to hit it. He's not going to hit that. He's not going to hit that thing. I mean, and it going in. This can't happen. So you can't put yourself.
Bring out the snowplow. Bring out John Smith.
Right. Get the barefoot kicker out there. But no, it's that's a problem. Special teams a problem. I thought Taylor was okay returning kicks, although bringing that ball out in the second half like that. Where he hurt them in field position.
Well,
but I thought
was that Taylor, Chris? I thought that was Duggan that brought the ball out of the end zone too. Once Duggan did the same thing. Once they put him after Taylor made the mistake, Chris. They brought Duggan out to replace him.
Yeah, that may have been Duggar doing that.
And Duggar did this. Duggar did the same thing. I think
it was Duggar. He brought it out and he got to the 15-yard line. It was. I mean, that's just not what you want to be doing.
Should have never brought it out. But
But I think all in all, I think today's game. I think for what they got to have on offense, Mark, this receiving core is so bad. They're 2-1 right now, and that they could be 3-0 very easily.
Only thing I can say, Chris, right, about the offense, if you think about it, they've played 3 games
for as much production as they've had too.
But listen, Chris, they've played 3 games. Now maybe this is the offense of the 2020-21 season. They've played 3 games, and the offense, Chris, has done 3 different things to win football games. The first week it was the RPO. The second week it was Newton threw the ball against a secondary that was clearly injured and banged up. And this week you go to the screen game and the short passing game and a little in the running game. So what's it going to be week 4? Maybe week 4 you see a different type of an offense. Every week the offense has generated a different style, Chris, to be successful. And maybe that's going to be the theme of 2020-21, that the offense week to week, you don't know what the strategy will be, but maybe this is going to be the year that McDaniels just works it and comes up with some real great in-game planning and changing, because they've done 3 different types of game plans, Chris, 3 weeks in a row for this offense.
Mark, they're productive as hell.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
The offense has been, if nothing, you can't say they haven't been productive.
Chris, they should have scored over 40. They should have scored over 40 points today.
They scored 36 points today.
Izzo drops that ball in his hands. That's a touchdown.
They definitely left 4 to 6, 8 points on the field today. I agree.
Yeah.
They scored 36 points last week. They scored 30 and a shy away from 36 again. Week 1 was a lower score, but
week 1, Chris, I think it was just okay. What do we got here? We're coming out. We're breaking from training camp. We don't know what we got, but next week we're going to see again what the offense shows. I think next week, Chris, you're going to see a steady diet if he's healthy. I really think you're going to see a lot of this kid from Alabama next week. He was the star of training camp, Chris, and then he hurts his pinky. Just our luck, and he's going to have surgery. He was the star at training camp, and he had surgery on his pinky. Are you kidding me?
Well, hopefully he gets back next week, and then what's that going to mean for Michelle if he comes back? We want to talk about that on the other side.
Well, listen, I don't want to say Marcus. I know Marcus called from Attleboro about Sonny Michel, but I'm sorry, Marcus. I hope you don't get upset with me. Next week, I hope he don't see the field because Damian Harris is back.
No, I can't stand him going sideways.
Just my opinion.
And we're going to talk about some trades that Mark believes we should make and probably can make. All of that, more post game and your calls on the other side. More Pats Nation after this.
It's that time again for a timeout from PATS Nation for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket, or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group. Now back to Pats Nation.
Back in with more Pats Nation, Corso and Catone. And Mark, we were talking about I wanted to get to some of the trades that you think we should make and can make. I definitely want to talk about that. But to end your point you were making, about Michelle, about Harris. Yeah, Mark, it's time to see this kid now. It's time to see this kid from Alabama and what this kid can do. And I think Sonny Michel is going to be a history.
Listen, I know we have callers. We had the one caller, Marcus from Attleboro. The more and more I think about it, I don't even know what he was watching today. That poor guy out in Araboro. Maybe he was at the bar. Maybe he had a couple of too many drinks. Sonny Michel out of the backfield catching the ball. What? Really?
Well,
Chris,
but Mark,
listen,
he was billed as that,
listen,
though. Listen, come on. He was
listen,
billed.
I was
billed
billed.
as that coming out of Georgia.
Oh, Chris, please. Listen, Sonny Michel, trade him. You can get a 5th, 6th round pick. Get rid of him. He stinks. Listen, the holes he's running through, like I said, I could run through those holes, Chris, and I'm a beat up old man for crying out loud. Listen, it's time to move on from that experiment. We've given him enough time, right? Time to move on from that experiment. I think you got to see what Harris can give you now. And then I think maybe we need Cleveland to lose and lose badly, because you're going to end up with Beckham or Landry. And you need one of them. They will unload one of those guys if they start losing, and they should, and I think they'll get rid of the tight end, because the tight end, Chris, they're not going to sign, and we could use that tight end, Ajoku. They'll trade him before the trade deadline for draft picks too, because they ain't going to keep him. He's walking at the end of the year.
Well, one, do we have enough capital for it? I mean, can we afford to do it?
Mike, you know what, Chris? If I can get an established player, I'll give up from some draft capital, because look at our draft picks. I'll give up a 4th, 3rd round pick for Beckham, or a 2nd round pick. Our drafts are terrible. Anyways, at least you're getting an established possible star to put with Newton. And if you go get a guy like Beckham, guess what? Newton now says, hey, they're building a team around me. You give Newton some money and he has a good year, he'll stick around and play with those guys. Well,
they practice in the offseason together too, don't they?
Yeah.
The Beckham and Newton. So yeah, no, listen, I think it would be a great match, and I think they could make that work. I don't know if Cleveland's going to do it. I think
Cleveland's got to start losing, Chris. I think if Cleveland starts losing, you'll see them unload a little bit before the trade deadline. I'll get rid of one of those guys, just because I think Cleveland.
I'd rather see Beckham than Landry. I would. For sure.
I would. Listen, Cleveland's got Kareem Hunt. They got Nick Chubb. They got a defense. I think you said it today to me, Chris. You said, oh my God, are you watching this Cleveland game? You said this guy, Mayfield, can't throw the ball over 10 yards with accuracy. So I think they're going to become a defensive running short yardage team. And I think you can pry one of those receivers out of there. Because I think we definitely got to try to do something at the trade deadline at the wide receiver position, Chris.
They got to do something. And then
especially Chris, if we're winning and we're 5-1, 6-1 at the trade deadline. Now what? You got to put yourself in position to make a run.
That's assuming a win next week.
That's assuming. Defensively, they're making me very nervous, Chris. I don't know next week. Next week could get ugly quick against Mahomes.
We'll cover next week. Is there anywhere else that you look? And I know that people talked about
Chris, I don't know where you
get Robinson from Chicago, talking about would he be, but now they seem to have made up over there, and they're gonna keep
Chris,
him.
I think, could you pry a defensive lineman away from a team for like a 5th, 6th round pick, maybe a veteran who's just disgruntled, and we've done that before here, and because I think you definitely gonna have to shore up the center of that line, Chris. I don't think unless this guy Bo Allen, who hasn't stepped on the field, another guy you gave him money, hasn't stepped on the field, the guy they signed from Tampa Bay, unless he can give you something, Chris, you need somebody that's going to stop the run and at least pose some sort of a threat in the middle.
Okay. Mark, I have to stop for 1 second, because everybody out there needs to listen to this. Do you see on the screen that I have 2 dark bars on either side of me? Mark has a full screen. I think everybody can see that on the screen. So our wonderful producer, Joe Guarnieri. Okay, Joe, we love you so much. We really do. Tells me, listen, your camp, we broadcast like everybody. We're broadcasting from our homes, like everybody's doing. So Joe tells us you're getting your cameras. Your cameras are going to be arriving. They're going to be coming. The new spiffy cameras. See how nice Mark looks right now. Look, sit up straight, Mark, so everybody can see. So Mark looks fantastic, right? And I got these bars sitting on the side.
The camera even makes me look like I'm handsome, Chris.
Right.
I love this camera.
So I'm walking right now. I'm looking outside of my window, and I could see the guy walking up, and he's delivering the box. He just delivered the box.
No, he didn't.
No, sitting there. He's delivered the box for the brand new camera, and off he goes. And that's where my camera is. And I told Mark before this show, I said, I guarantee you the camera's going to arrive in the middle of the show. And ladies and gentlemen, the camera just arrived. Next week, you're going to get to see me look as good as Mark looks in a beautiful, stunning fashion. Okay. And he also, so anyway, I had to stop because I knew full well I was going to see that happen today during the show. So Mark, again, what do they do at the defensive front? Can they do anything? And can you get anything from Michelle? Can we do something with him then? How about our good friend over there in New York, Judge?
Well, New York.
Do they have anything that we can get?
Well, I thought maybe New York would trade for him, but then they signed the kid that's been a free agent from Atlanta. Nobody ever signed him. They went and signed him. So I don't know. Maybe, but I don't know. But Michelle, Chris, I guess you're gonna deal with him all year, Chris. I don't think you're gonna get rid of him. I think you wasted a first-round draft pick on him. It's embarrassing. But what are you gonna do? I think you're stuck with him. I think he'll rotate in and out. I certainly hope next week that they don't make the kid Taylor inactive. If Damian Harris is active and you're gonna use him next week, I certainly hope you don't make JJ Taylor inactive, because now you got White back, you got Harris available. I certainly hope Taylor's not inactive for Sonny Michel. I would make Michel inactive.
Do you really think that there's a possibility? Come on, Mark. Do you really think there's a possibility that they're going to make Sonny Michel inactive next week without manufacturing some sort of?
That's what I'm telling you. They're going to make. They're going to make Taylor inactive, and I'm going to lose my mind.
That can't happen. And is Harris going to be ready? Will he actually come back next week? Well,
I hope he comes back next week. He's eligible. You're right, Chris. You know what? It could be one of those things they extend him a couple of more weeks. But if he's ready to go, you got to use the kid. He was the star of your training camp, supposedly the star of camp. You know. Mark, and listen, I know you wanted Michelle to get drafted. Yeah. You were begging for it. You got him. And now how do you like him?
There's just things you never do. You should never do, and I would never do.
Look at this guy. I'm looking at the TV screen. Look at this guy, Arians. He's got orange sunglasses on. He looks like an ant. One of those guys. One of those Martians. He looks like a Martian. He's a head coach. Oh my God. He looks like a Martian.
Who's on the screen?
Arians. He had on the black. He had on the mask with these orange red glasses. He looked like he came from outer space. For Christ's
sake. Did you see Belichick's mask again today? We got a new segment we're going to do also on the show, and it's going to say Belichick's mask. That's what it's going to say. Belichick's mask.
These guys, you know.
Mark, what about Belichick's mask today? Again,
the mask was an upgrade. Last week, Chris, you brought up the mask. You understand the mask was upside down last week?
Yeah, it looked like it was. I didn't know. I didn't know what he was doing last week with that mask.
It was upside down.
This time he had it was a white mask, and it looks like it's about 4 sizes too small for him, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I don't know what he's getting. I don't know what he's doing with the mask.
But in all honesty, Mark, listen, they've got to upgrade. They've got to do something. They've got to try to trade for somebody at wide receiver, because if we're talking about this team the way some people are talking about them right now, and everybody's very hot on the Patriots right now, it's almost as if they've gotten back to that whole, remember when they always would play the underdog role, and people would count them out and all this other stuff, and it's kind of like they're getting back to that, where people didn't really expect much out of them, so everything they're giving you, and everybody loves Newton, wants to see him do well. Talking about him this morning is he a comeback player of the year along with Roethlisberger?
I'm going to tell you something, Chris. Next week, if they beat Kansas City. If they beat Kansas City next week, guess what?
Are they going to become the darlings of the NFL again, Mark? This team?
I think Newton.
What do you people think? Tell us what you think.
Chris, I think part of it was people just got sick of Brady and Belichick, but I think Cam Newton is a feel-good story, right? And I think if they win next week, I think people like him, and I think there's going to be parts of the nation. Yes, they hate the Patriots and they hate Belichick. They always will, right? They're jealous, right? But I think there are parts of the country who just didn't like Brady, who's ready to embrace us because of Cam Newton. It's a feel-good story. Nobody wanted him. You got him on a bargain basement deal. And all of a sudden now you go in and beat the defending Super Bowl champions next week.
Well,
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
It's an about face to a lot of people around here or around there who
Chris, did you
really
see when they scored the touchdown, the defensive touchdown? He was on the sidelines whacking him in the head with the towel. Brady wouldn't have been bothered with that.
No, that was
year.
it. But
it was over.
Brady's, Brady could be their father, I mean, it like Newton's a young man. I mean, he's 31,
but he's interacting with the guys in a different type of manner, in a different way.
He's just that kind of guy. Yeah, he gets with the guys. He's with them. He's one of the guys and acts like it too.
And I'm going to tell you something. It's refreshing to see as a fan too, Chris. The camaraderie on the sidelines.
For us, because that's been missing. That's been slowly building to a volcano over the last few years, where you could sense the tension and the nonsense and the baloney going on in that locker room and behind the scenes at the hierarchy there with the quarterback, coach, owner, all that stuff going on. That really the bottom half of the team wasn't, it wasn't generated from them. It was all up top, and now that's missing. And everybody in New England likes it. It's a breath of fresh air. It's what you and I thought was going to happen, this entire time with this guy coming in here. But you know what? Can it survive long term? Can it last long term? What is this team going to be able? Because listen, he's playing within the framework of the offense. Mark, you asked me in the offseason. You said, or not in the offseason, in our preseason show, you asked me, should they extend them? Should they give him a lot of money? Should they do it in season, whatever? If he has a huge year, right? If he has a big year and he's looking at MVP, comeback player of the year, whatever it is, what do you do at that point? And I said to you, it depends on how, in what manner is he successful? Is he successful just running all around the place, getting first downs with his legs and all of that, because he can't sustain that for 3 or 4 more years. But if he's doing it within the framework of this offense, then I think it's worth extending this guy. What else is there? We're going to go to the draft. You're not going to get Lawrence at this rate. Not with how bad the Jets are.
No, you're not getting Lawrence. No.
And they'll trade to the highest bidder.
Well, that's going to be an interesting thing. What do? You draft Lawrence, they're going to trade. No, they're going to trade Donald.
They'll have to.
You got to take Lawrence. You can't trade Lawrence.
Well, then they'll destroy Lawrence too.
They'll destroy that poor kid. They'll destroy that poor kid. Anyway.
Yeah, I hope the kid doesn't get drafted by it. But the point is, it depends. And right now, he's operating within the framework of that offense.
He absolutely is. Listen, today was a great example of how he's operating within the confines of the offense, because after that first pick, the bad throw, you even said earlier in the show, here we go. This is what he does sometimes. He gets frustrated. He's going to stop forcing balls and throwing balls. And down in Carolina, today would have been one of those days where he might have had 3 picks, right? But instead, calmed himself down, worked in the confines of the offense, and took what the defense gave him the rest of the way. And I think you saw him early talking to McDaniels, and Amy McDaniels were talking on the sidelines, and it worked,
Yeah, having those moments. Yeah.
Having those moments,
that he would have with Brady, sitting over
that he would have with Brady,
to
other than the last couple of years. I think Brady got, frustrated and with the whole situation. But I think it was, Newton. I think Newton's doing and taking in what they're telling him to do, and it's working right now. I think that maybe 4 weeks from now it's not working, but right now it's working.
Well, Mark, listen, if they make a move, because I think these tie right into each other. Okay, if they go and make a move for a guy like Beckham or Landry, or a bigger name receiver like this to make a trade, you're not doing that with the unknown with the thought of having an unknown quarterback situation the following year. I mean, this guy Beckham will destroy your locker room like that. He'll completely destroy the team.
If you're going to bring in a guy like Beckham, it's because you think Newton's going to be here long term with you, because Newton can probably control him, right?
Yeah, of course he can, because that's all Beckham wants. Beckham wants to be with a veteran guy that can win.
And let me tell you something, Chris. They're going to make a move. I'm going to tell you why. Because the last 2 or 3 years, they've made moves for Brady. They've brought guys in at the trade deadline. It didn't necessarily always work, but they've brought guys in.
They've given away picks.
Right? They've given away picks, whatever, but they've done it for Brady. And I have to think if they continue to play well and win, that Belichick's going to do it for Brady, for Newton. And you know why he's going to do it for Newton too, Chris? Even more so, back to your segment, Brady or Belichick, who's winning. You know, Belichick wants to prove
Oh yeah.
I'm the winner here.
No,
So-
yeah. There's no way he wants to give anything up that
So
Tom
believe
Down
me, if he
Tampa
thinks
over
they
there.
got a chance to make a run this year with Newton, Chris, if he thinks I'm a wide receiver away from making a run with this offense, he's going to go get him a playmaker, or at least try to go get him a receiver better than what he has. Anyway,
Well, that makes next week's game
You
a
know,
huge
better.
game.
Sure
Mark.
it does.
Because, and that brings us right to that now, and getting into next week and looking at what's coming, because that's going to answer that question a lot. Because if they can hang with that team next week, if they can figure out a way to hang with that team, and yes, I'm using those words, hang with that team,
Yes.
which before it would always be, teams need to hang with them. No, not anymore.
No, now we're going to have to hang with that team. You're right. And Chris, last
So-
week, we didn't know if they could hang with Seattle. They did.
No, I didn't think they could. And they did. And they're this close to being 3-0 right now.
Yeah.
This close. And in many ways probably should be a couple plays here and there. But again, if they can hang with that Kansas City team, and the only thing I'll say to the defensive side of the ball is that team's been built for this, to defend Kansas City. That's how they're built. They're built in a way to try to defend those crossers and those with all the D-backs that they put on the field. And now we'll see how Duggar performs. We'll see.
Yes, you're right, Chris. Next week, Doug is going to get playing time next week. There's no question.
But what do you think the keys are now to next week? Can the Patriots go into that? Can the Patriots go into the Chiefs' house and beat that team?
Chris, I think the key, I'm going to tell you what the key is next week. And we're going to be talking, I'm telling you right now, Chris, we're going to be talking about it in the post game next week. The key to that game next week is going to be that rookie running back for Kansas City, because I just have a funny feeling he's going to go off. He's going to have a huge game against our linebackers and against our defensive line, our front seven. He's going to expose us. And that kid is going to have a huge night like Kareem Hunt used to have against us. Remember the night we were sitting? Remember the night we were there?
We were at that game.
We were at the game. They raised the banner, and Kareem Hunt went crazy.
That's what that's where we discovered what a jerk Kelsey is. What an absolute moronic fool jerk that guy is.
He's a jerk.
Oh, I couldn't stand that guy. I can't. Yeah. So I mean that.
But I think, Chris, next week that's going to be the key to that game. Believe it or not, because you're right. I think our secondary is built to neutralize somewhat. You're not going to stop Kansas City. Listen, no one in the league stopping Kansas City. Okay. You can slow them down a little bit. Maybe you can neutralize them for a period of time during the course of a game, but eventually they're going to get their points. You're going to have to score next week. Can our offense keep up with them, Chris? If they put 35 on the board, can we score 38 to beat Kansas City next week? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing, or do you need to do that, or do you want it to be a game like that where, see, to me, the offensive side of the ball, you got to control the clock. That week one where they had where the Patriots had one of their possessions, or I'm sorry, they had the ball for about 11 or 12 minutes of the second quarter, I think it was, in that game, or the third quarter. That's the kind of game they need to have. They got to control the clock.
Well,
they're going to have to run the ball, and you can run the ball against Kansas City. You're going to be able to run the ball against that team, depending on who you're using. And so Harris may have a big game too.
That's why I think if Harris is healthy and he's eligible to come off IR, based on what he supposedly did in training camp, obviously we didn't see it. I think you got to give him a shot next week, because you're right. He may be able to control the game. Because listen, Chris, Kansas City's defense is last week they should have lost that game. I mean, the kid made a rookie mistake for San Diego. He forced that up. I'm saying San Diego like you're saying Oakland. The kid for the Los Angeles Chargers last week makes that mistake. The rookie makes a rookie mistake. He doesn't force that ball and he runs for that first down. Chances are San Diego wins the game. They're 2-1
now.
Kansas City's 2-1.
I think it's a beatable team. It's definitely a beatable team. I mean, I know the two of us sound like right now, and write your comments into us, but
we sound like
homies. The two of
homies.
us sound like, we do. I mean, we sound like two people that are talking ourselves into, but these are the things they need to do to win the game. We're a Patriots post-game show. We want to know what it takes to win the game. We could talk about all we want about all the crap it takes to lose the game. We know what it's going to take: penalties, turnovers, okay, bad secondary play, no pressure, not containing Mahomes. Yeah, those are all recipes for a disaster, if we start doing that crap now over there. But if they could control the clock, if they could keep Mahomes and apply some of that up the middle pressure that they were doing last year to him. But you got to see some of these guys on the field. You got to have the athletes out there. And I'm really interested to see what kind of game Duggar's going to have next week against that Kansas City team. So only time will tell. That game kicks off at 4:25 Eastern time, and we're going to go on 30 minutes after that. But Mark, final thoughts on this game.
Final thoughts, Chris. I think that we still don't know. I'm going to say what we have. I love the fact that the offense adjusted and Cam Newton played within what was given to him. He played within the confines of the system, but he took what was given to him and didn't force anything. And that's my biggest takeaway today, that Cam Newton took what was given to him. He showed composure. He did things that he typically didn't do in Carolina, and that impressed me today. The way the game started, Chris, he would have ended up with 3 picks in Carolina. But he took a step back. He took a deep breath and said, okay, this is what they're doing today. This is what they're going to give me. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to do it. And he did. And that impressed me today. I was impressed with, even though his stats weren't what they were the last 2 weeks, maybe, but I was impressed with the game that Cam Newton had today, because he took what was given to him and he slowed the game down, and he did what he needed to do for them to win.
The other side of the ball, Mark, and you out there, the front seven's got to get better. They're getting pushed around in the running game.
Can they get better? I don't know.
Well, this is the thing. Can they get better? They need to get better, because it's not going to get easier after this. They got pushed around today. The secondary played some soft times, some covers that was soft. They're never challenging anymore. I don't see them challenging footballs. I don't see them challenging at the point of the catch. They're just not doing that, including Gilmore, and that needs to improve. And if they don't, they're going to have a real difficult time next week against a team that loves to throw the ball all over the field. But I thought the pressure was better, and they're going to need a lot more of that contained pressure. So, Mark, some people to thank tonight. We want to thank the people over at Special Sauce Podcast, Jag Media Productions. I want to thank the people at Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal law firm. Allow us to be your voice. Studio 42 Graphics and Design, and Mountain View Home and Watch Security, Scottsdale's leading private home security firm. We always want to thank our producer, our longtime producer, Joe Guarneri, who makes this all go, or else you couldn't see or hear or talk to us at all. So thank you, Joe, as always. For Mark Catone, I'm Chris Corso. Join us next week when the New England Patriots go to Arrowhead Stadium to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a 4:25 kickoff. Yeah.
Go Celtics.
Yeah, go Celtics. 4:25 kick on. We come on 30 minutes following that game. For Mark Catone, I'm Chris Corso. So long, everybody.